Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it? Worked it? Logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for Ham Talk Live. It's episode number 177, building a modest contest station with BeLoud.us, recorded live on Thursday, August 15th, 2019. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight, we're joined by Steve, W9SN. And I forgot to ask if Fred was going to make it, WW4LL. He is traveling. They're going to be down at Huntsville this weekend, so we'll take Steve, and if Fred can join in, we will add him in, and we'll take your calls in a few minutes. Last week here on the show, Craig Thompson, K9CT, was here to talk about SMC Fest, and if you missed the show, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, or you can catch the rebroadcast on WTWW 5085 AM Saturday evenings at about 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So get your station building questions ready to go. If you're listening to us live on Thursday night, you can give us a call. We'll do the interview first, and then we'll open up the phone lines, and the number to call is 812-NET-HAM-1. It's 812-638-4261. You can also send a question via Twitter. The Twitter handle is at Ham Talk Live, and I'll be back with Steve right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live.
Is this getting serious?
I think so.
Well, how do you feel about it? Just imagine if you hadn't run out of PL259s.
Just imagine if your connectors weren't from Tower Electronics.
Consider the sophisticated quality of connectors from Tower Electronics. Their silver-plated end connectors are so good, they've even been used on the International Space Station.
I'm not so sure why I ever used any other PL259s.
Mine are better. Besides, you deserve the best. You know I love you.
Don't be caught without PL259s. Visit Tower Electronics at a Hamfest near you, or visit them online anytime at pl-259.com, or call 920-435-2973. They also have ham sticks, mobile antennas, and meters too. See the whole catalog. Go to pl-259.com. Tower Electronics, the ham's dime store since 1978.
Oh, baby. You put a 5-9 in my logbook. Now enjoy more Ham Talk Live.
Thanks to Tower Electronics for sponsoring the show again tonight. They help bring you Ham Talk Live each and every week. And we'll see Scott and Jill this weekend down in Huntsville, Alabama. They will be there. And then they're off to Shelby, North Carolina, August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. Findlay, Ohio, September 8th, and then Peoria, Illinois, the Superfest, September 14th and 15th. But you can visit them anytime at pl-259.com. Steve Narducci, W9SN, is an active contester participating mostly in CW and RTTY contests. He's helped and installed several contest stations with antenna station design, engineering, and software modeling. He's a former CEO of a small wireless company prior to its acquisition and now focuses on contest station building and design. In 30 years, he reached the top of the honor roll of DXCC at 349, and he owns and operates a winning contest station on a high hilltop in northeast Tennessee, holding 2 USA records and many top 3 finishes, and continues to push the limits with his 4-tower installation and several antennas. So, Steve, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. It's good to be back. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. And
Okay,
we're gonna talk about building some contest stations, and you operate BLoud.us. That's a large remote contest station out in Maine, and you can remote into that and operate that. So we'll, I'm sure, talk about it as well. But we talked about that station quite a bit last time you were on, and we said, we didn't get around to talking about, okay, now what do the rest of us do? Okay, I'd love to have, one of these great big contest stations like that. I would absolutely love that. But the reality is I'm not going to be able to pull that off. So for somebody like me that likes contesting but knows, I'm not going to be in the top 5, and I'm not going to have the time to get in the top 5. But I want to improve and do better, and build a modest contesting station. Let's take tonight to talk about some of the main things that you need to do without breaking the bank.
Yeah. I'll share some things that I've learned over the years for a more modest station and building for contesting and DXing. I started out as a DXer and ended up as a contester. But I still like both. I still do both. It's a lot of fun. But I'll also say I'm one of the newcomers. I've really only been doing this seriously for about 10 years. I've had really good success, and it's been a blast. But many guys, a lot of my peers have been doing this a whole lot longer than I have, it's decades. So I don't consider myself an expert, but I've learned a lot from my experience, and I've had the privilege to contest some of the best talent on the planet, and I've learned from them. I'm going to focus on building some contest station and just some techniques and some fundamental building blocks. Today, probably the first thing that I do when I look at it is software in design. So, I've been traveling the globe quite a bit lately, and I've been in a lot of countries, and I've been all over our country, helping stations, giving some pointers and doing it hands-on. So, really building the modest to the big, the fundamentals are really the same. So the first thing I always look at is HFTA software. K6TU's website now makes it easy to do this, and it can be done in minutes. Just a few years ago, before this came along, you had to. It was a monumental task to do this. There was like an hour and a half video on YouTube, and you had to download stuff from different websites and had to install it. It was actually quite cumbersome to do it. I did it, and I modeled my station, and now if you go to K6TU's website, you can really just download something in just a few minutes, and you can model it. It's very easy. So it's really, it might even surprise you on what you have available, good or bad. For example, my station that I have in Tennessee likes my antennas about 100 feet or less from 20 meters and up. Anything much over that is either very little return or even negative gain because of my topography. But, each station location is very different, if even only 200 foot away. So it's always best to find out your geography's ability to produce from the exact spot where you plan on putting your antennas. The results of what you get can also determine what contests will be best for you to get the most out of those results. If, for example, if your location has a higher takeoff angle, either because of your topography or because you can't get your antennas high enough, you might actually do better in the domestic contests. And you might do really well in the international contests if it's just the opposite and have really good low angle takeoff. So my station that I have actually has really good low takeoff angle, especially towards Europe. So each station has its strengths and weaknesses depending on what you have to work with. Now I've modeled my station location and compared it to other top contest stations just to see how I stack up. And changing the heights and putting different stacks in, moving the location around the property. It shows me where my greatest potential is and how high, and to get the best bang out of it. It saved me a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money because I know exactly what I'm going to have when it's produced.
So how do you really? Is it all computer modeling, or is there anything that you can do to just kind of look at the maps and the elevations and try to figure that out? Or do you really need that computer modeling?
Well, the computer modeling is going to give you an exact, and I got to be careful about saying that because, it's the most exact that we have today. I'm sure maybe something in the future may be different, but for right now, it is the best thing that we have. There's no substitute for altitude. I mean, you really can't substitute that. But I found that if I find a piece of ground that has rolling, sloping towards the direction that you're wanting, that's really good. My location example, I live on a 145-foot ridge. And I've got 100-foot towers on there, and the ground underneath there almost goes down at a 45-degree angle underneath of them. So, when you model it, it's like, holy smokes, it's an incredible takeoff as compared to what it would be if it was flat ground. So that's kind of what the software shows you is it can compare what your property would be like if it was completely flat, or if you have what you've got right now. So that's kind of the advantage that I've got, and it gives me an idea on whether I'm going to be really strong in high angle or in low angle takeoff. So, and that tells me what kind of a contest that I may want to enter in. If I'm looking at really doing well in a particular contest, and there's some stations with just single tower setups that are done right that really perform very well. In fact, it's surprisingly well. One thing that you probably want to look at also is antenna modeling. Especially if you're going to build like your own antennas. I found that by stacking two smaller antennas will give me an advantage over one really long, big antenna, like a long boom antenna. The modeling is going to show me what's best for my particular location. But when building, like in Tennessee, I like the most forward gain, and I'll sacrifice on the front to back. To me, the front to back is not very important. And actually might end up being an advantage for me to have less of the front to back. The reason why is because the stations to my rear, like Southwest, like in Texas, they're going to hear me better if I have less front to back, and they're probably going to be less apt to call CQ on my frequency. So now others might disagree, and they like having a high front to back, and it keeps the noise down on the radio, because I will hear some of the more noise on the back, but I like having that advantage. But everybody's a little different, but that's me.
I'm going to agree with you on that, because we've got at school, what I would call a very modest, but it's more of a contest grade station. We've got a 2-element stepper, and we try turning it and seeing how directional it is, and it does give us a lot of directionality. But the thing is, we also get a lot of stuff off of the back, and if we didn't, I think we'd miss out on an awful lot.
Well, and I've being in contests, there'll be guys that don't hear me very well that'll get right on top of my frequency and call, and then there'll be a DX station or somebody coming back to us, and I can kind of tell he's there, and I've seen it where we're both trying to contact that station exactly at the same time, and he'll give a report. So it's like, okay, if you've clobbered each other on who he's responding to, you may not realize, you may not have actually worked the guy. So it's, for me, I like having the lesser front to back, but the most gain in the front. But that's the way I like to do it. Talking about the contest, you want to focus on antenna directivity as well, because for me, I like to install an inexpensive tri-bander that faces the Caribbean on the international contests. One of my best antennas, believe it or not, is a homebrew wire tri-band Yagi that hangs between two trees. And I just got it fixed on the Caribbean, but picture a 2-inch aluminum boom that is suspended between two tall trees. I've got two 75-foot oak trees, and I've got this thing up about 65, 70 feet, and it's got pulleys on the bottom of the boom, and I just pull up dipoles. Well, it's basically the driven element is like a fan dipole for 10, 15, and 20, and then I just pull up reflector wires for each band too on those pulleys. And I don't have $100 in it, and it really works quite well. It's fast because I can just click right over to that antenna, work them, and then I can go right back to my run antenna if I'm doing a single op, or even if, like in multi-contest, when I have multiple operators there, they can just click over to the Caribbean antenna and then click right back to another one. So it's a big advantage for us. So I like having fixed antennas in different directions. We actually did the same technique on our main station. We actually have antennas that are fixed so that we can quickly switch between directions without having to take the time for the rotor. And it's a big advantage. I've also had low-mounted multiband tri-banders in different areas as well, and that kind of fills in the gap on the high angle. But one cool thing that I've done is I've put like 2-element quads. They're just wires is all they are. It's just a loop antenna or just a single loop, and I've done some 2-element quad loops that I put inside, basically just hung them from a tree. When you stand back and look, you can't even really tell that it's up there. But it's a 2-element quad that hangs from the tree. SWR is flat. It's facing the direction that I want. Low cost, and it's actually quite effective. They're quiet. The quads, you can actually mount them closer to the ground than what you could a Yagi, and you get pretty good performance out of these things. So I've got one that's mounted at 25 feet. It's three bands, 10, 15, and 20, and it's fed with a single coax, because I've just got a 2-to-1 balun on it. And guys coming to the house, you just cannot believe how well that thing's working. I got one of them facing towards Europe, and we've got a big 5/5 long boom stacks up there. But this small quad 2-element really holds its own at 25 feet. So it's kind of impressive. But each station's going to be a little different. So you'll want to model to find out what you can get away with. The other thing is pick your category. There's all these categories, whether it's high power, low power, maybe QRP or assisted. So I'd suggest looking at the results of the last few years' winners and see how many Qs and how many mults those stations are turning into win. This will give you a goal to work towards and help you to choose the best category for your particular contest. The other thing you can do for more of a modest station is single band contesting. And I've actually done that. When I first put my 40-meter antennas up, I had brand new 40-meter antennas that I put up, and I basically had one array that I faced towards the northwest, towards Japan. I had another array that I faced towards Europe, and then I had a 4-square on 40 meters that I faced, that I basically parked on the Caribbean and towards the south. And running SO2R, but basically just 40-meter band only, I actually took first place, and not only just USA, but I was actually first place in the world. It was kind of cool. Won me a plaque, and it was a lot of fun. So, if I see some of these really high scores being turned in on single band operation. So if you don't have a lot of real estate or a lot of money, you can actually pour a lot of your energy just into a single band. Whether it's 15, obviously 15 is not really good right now, but maybe 20 or 40 or even 80 meters. So there's some guys that really do well on a certain band. And I found this to be true at a lot of the contest station. the big ones where they have multiple bands. There's usually several bands that they really shine on those bands on, and that just comes down to modeling and how they've built the station. So, it's a fairly simple thing to focus on a single band effort. If you're looking at doing like single op contests, to be the most successful, if you're really trying to do well in it, you'll want to learn how to do SO2R. It's an art. It does take some time to get better, so don't expect to master it in a night. I sure didn't. But just by doing it in a contest really helps you to learn it. Now, I'm not the best at it, but I do it. and I've watched other guys like on YouTube. Just, these guys can just literally kick my butt at it. But you can't let that discourage you. I use SO2R when the rate gets slow, like say under 60 contacts an hour. It's still a huge advantage. Just if you can just make an extra 5 to 10 contacts an hour with a second radio or a second VFO if you only have one radio. I have won and lost contests by only 5 contacts an hour. I mean, if you do the math, it's amazing. So just having that second VFO or that second radio, even if you're not very good at SO2R, you'll be amazed about how many extra contacts that you can put in the log by the end of the contest.
Now, how about separate receive antennas? Do you just go ahead and use the single antenna, or do you have a separate receive antenna like maybe a beverage? And hang on, we're going to enjoy a beverage here.
That's right.
A little water there. So
there you go.
There's the beverage joke. So all right. So what do you think on that?
Well, yes. Here's the thing: if you're going to do a single radio with 2 VFOs in it, if you're on the higher frequencies or even on, like, say, 40 meters, the beverage may not come in to play there. But if you're going to do like 80 meters and 160, absolutely, it's going to take the noise down. And what I have found is that even when I'm doing SO2R, and I like using 2 actual radios. One radio I put in one ear, one radio I put in the other ear. And one of them, like say the left radio, I'll call it my run radio. That's where I'm calling CQ. And I'm basically parked on a single frequency and I'm operating. The radio to my right is what I'm going to call either my in band if I'm running in band with that other radio. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my run radio and put it down at the bottom end of the band or at the top end of the band. And then my run radio, my in-band radio or my mult radio, my SO2R radio, I'm going to roll around the band and try and stay away from it as much as possible. Now, just like you were talking about a receive antenna, by putting that on a different receive antenna, I keep the hash and the noise down. So while I'm transmitting with my REN radio, I'm listening to the extra radio and in the other ear. Now, if I'm listening to an antenna that's, very close or really resonant, then it's really going to be loud, and it's hard to take that noise out. And that's where having a different antenna actually comes into play. I'll never forget one contest. AA4CF and I was running 15 meters one time, and we were doing a multi, and all the rest of the guys went home. And we're the last 2 hours of the contest, and 15 meters decided to open up to Japan. Well, he's on the run radio. He's running a stack on 15 meters over on one radio, where I'm basically in-banding for him because the band's open. We only have a short period of time. We want to make as many contacts on that band as possible. So he's at the bottom end of the band on the stacks. I'm at the top end of the band. Well, every time he transmits, he just clobbered my receive, and every time I transmit, I do the same to him. So what I did was, we've got an 80-meter delta loop that's in a tree that's about 400 feet away from the transmit antennas. So I just basically used that antenna on my radio and tuned it, and the band was open enough to where I could still make contacts and still hear those guys in Japan on that big wire. But the noise, I cut the noise in half. Now, we still heard each other, obviously, but it was enough that we could actually do that. So there's times that you may want just oddball antennas out there that are either non-resident or on another band to use with your second radio just for that purpose if you're going to in-band for yourself or if you're going to multi-contest.
Well, we're going to need to take a break here. We're just about to break time, so we're going to do that. When we come back, we want to talk about, what are some of the things that you can trim off if you have to trim off something on your install, and we'll talk about some contesting software and some other things when we come back after this word from ICOM right here on Ham Talk Live. Heard it, worked it, logged it. It's time to get the transceiver that's best suited for your lifestyle. ICOM offers a variety of high-performance and innovative products. Make the most out of contest season with one of these ICOMs today. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent ones. The IC7610 by ICOM is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has RF direct sampling, 110 RMDR, independent dual receiver, and dual digicell. The IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. With RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, a large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. And, of course, the IC7851 keeps your competitive contesting edge with faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. ICOM's IC7851 is the pinnacle of HF perfection. It has dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, high-resolution spectrum waterfall display, enhanced PC connectivity, and an SD memory card slot. For more information on ICOM radios, be sure to visit icomamerica.com/amateur.
Join the conversation. Give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live. Ham Talk Live.
The longer you listen, the later it gets.
Thanks to ICOM America for sponsoring Ham Talk Live each and every week. Check them out at icomamerica.com/amateur. Ham Talk Live is on the air every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here at hamtalklive.com. And be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's time for your calls now. So if you have a question for Steve, give us a call right now at 812-638-4261. That spells 812-NET Ham1, or you can tweet us. It's at Ham Talk Live on Twitter. And if you're listening to us on WTWW or the podcast edition, you won't find anybody home at the phone line because we're all going to be in Huntsville, so you won't be able to find us here. We do have one tweet here that we'll throw in before we get back to Steve. It's from Brett, WY7BG. Says, good evening, and it occurred to me today that hams might want to activate parking lots. I know where this is going because of my fascination with Walmart parking lots on the air. But activate the parking lots of hundreds of IMAX theaters around the country. Because, after all, it would be cool to say that one is participating in an event called Imploda. Oh, my. Well, good evening, Brett. Thank you for writing in. So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't implode. So, Steve, let's get back to the contest station here, and we'll see if we get some calls here at 812-638-4261. We were getting ready to talk about some ways that, maybe you've got this grand plan and you've got all this stuff figured out that you're going to do to build your station, and you get in and invariably you find something unexpected and it ends up costing more money. And so, with the big stations, you don't cut corners, but if you had to cut a corner, what would it be?
Well, first of all, I would your money is well spent in your antennas and outside. That is going to be your best bang for the buck. You know, a transmitter is a transmitter, so I would make sure that you know your main focus of your contest station will be what you connect at the other end of the coax. That's going to be your best bang for your buck. And there's other things you can do as well. For example, you know, if you don't have a lot of room for beverage antennas and receive antennas, one thing that I have done, and it's been very successful, is put out some what they call loops on the ground. Now, if you can picture a 60-foot piece of wire that is shaped into a diamond, it's 15 foot on a side, a 9-to-1. I think it's a 9-to-1 balun. I have to look at my notes again, but it's a small, tiny balun that you can build for pennies. Fed into 75 ohm coax. Now, these are not going to compare with a beverage at all, but they are directional. You can mow right over them once you put them on the ground with some ground staples. I've actually took several of these and phased them together. Now, again, they're not going to work as well as a beverage, but if you don't have the room for a beverage, this is a very cheap and inexpensive way that you can knock the noise down and still get good gain. You put a preamp on them if your rig doesn't have one. And use these. They're pretty effective. Another tool that you can use is having your own skimmer. Now, they've got some inexpensive solutions out now. You can take these small SDR plays. There's guys building these little things out of kits, but it's basically having your own DX skimmer. And I'm talking for like CW contests or for RIDI contests. You can actually build a CW or RIDI skimmer. Now, the beauty of having something like this is that your skimmer will spot to your station things that it's actually hearing. So you know that you're going to be able to work that particular station. You know, unlike having it connected up to some of the clusters where a guy in Japan is spotting somebody in Europe, which you're, you know, most likely not to be able to hear that. So these are going to be direct spots that you're not going to waste your time on trying to search out. So that's, you know, they're inexpensive and they're pretty effective. And having, you know, Jeff, W2FU, told me one time that your receive antenna are more important than your transmit antennas. And he is correct on that because you're not going to hear them or you're not going to work them if you can't hear them. So one thing you want to do is make sure that your location you can hear. Now, I've actually tested some of these small loop antennas, and we've actually used them. We used them. There are several manufacturers of these things, but they're about a 3-foot diameter loop. You know, there again, that's if you don't have a lot of room and a space. We were actually using them on our property where we had a lot of room, and we were just testing these things and putting a couple of them in phase, and we found that we used them to knock down our own noise because our transmit station is transmitting so loud. You know, he's running 1,500 watts. We're only 200 or 300 feet away from the antenna. We're using these antennas to knock that hash down, but to hear the other stations as well. So there are some effective little small receive antennas that you can do to do that, especially if you're going to in-band for yourself as a single op or, you know, even as a multi-op, but you want to in-band for it. For example, I take one radio and I'll put it on 20 meters and I'll put another radio using a non-resonant antenna, and I kind of talked about this before, also on 20 meters, but I'll use a completely a different antenna that's not resonant on that band. That really knocks the noise down too. It's inexpensive. You know, it's just if nothing else, just a dipole that you've got hanging in a tree or some other location on your property. Get it as far away from the transmit antenna as possible, but it does become quite effective. You know, there's a lot of new hardware out there too, and there's some advantages with the hardware choices. You know, a lot of these newer rigs now have 2 VFOs, have split audio where you can put one VFO in one ear and another VFO in the other ear, and then you can adjust the audio levels of each one. You know, when I'm busy in a run, like say, you know, I've got 100 an hour coming in on CW, I want to focus both ears on that one VFO. But when the pileup starts slowing down, I may want to split that off and start searching and pouncing with the other radio or the other VFO, and then I can split the audio and I can adjust the audio on each ear. So, you know, most of your modern rigs will do that. And now what a lot of guys will do, and I've learned this from different contest stations I've operated once, the contest station that has the most automation seems to do the best. And I'm talking about when you don't have to manually click and change the bands on the antenna switch, when you don't have to change the amplifier, when you don't have to change those things. It's much quicker because, like at my place, they're in Tennessee, and in fact, most of my contest station I've done, they're all automated totally. So when you click 20 meters on your logging software, and I particularly like N1MM, but if you click on 20 meters, the radio goes, obviously the software goes, the antenna switch goes, the amplifier goes, everything switches with one click. So you're just much more efficient that way. So the more you can automate, I think the better you'll be. I like having two radios. Now, there's some guys who operate really well with one radio, and there's some radios now that are coming out with two VFOs and complete, split and everything. I mean, you got full duplex with these things. So some of the hardware choices coming out now is really cool. And with N1MM, and I can only speak for that because I don't use a lot of other logging software. What I can do is with keys with just F keys, I can put one VFO or radio in one ear and one in the other ear, and I hit one key. It's like the / key. I can switch back and forth between which VFO I'm transmitting on, which radio I'm transmitting on, and one other click, I can switch the audio in and out of both ears with one push of a button. So, like, say, for example, that I'm calling CQ and I'm doing search and pounce, and all of a sudden I've got 4 guys coming back to me on my run frequency. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is put both ears on that pileup that's coming in so that I can copy better. That's me. Some of the younger ears out there might do better doing be okay not doing that. But me, I'm getting older. I want to have both ears focused. I hit one key on there. So learn to do these techniques. These are cheap, they're free, and there's all kinds of YouTube videos that show you how to set up your particular logging software with your radio that you can do that. And it just makes things so much faster and better because I don't have to turn knobs. If I don't touch the radio and all I'm doing is keystrokes, I'm so much more efficient, I'm so much faster, and the radio actually kind of slowed me down because I'm playing with it all the time. So I've got a lot of my macros and a lot of my F keys all laid out to where I do this. So the other thing that you'll have...
okay, go ahead. I've got some tweets here, so we're...
Oh, okay. Go ahead, and let me gather my thoughts on this next subject.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of younger ears, we have a couple of tweets from a couple of younger ops. And another one. I'll just put it that way. So, first of all, Bryant, KG5HVO, has a question for Steve. Do you have any BPF recommendations for a low power SO2R station?
Hi, Bryant. Good to talk to you here. Well, there's some choices on the big ones, obviously. On the smaller ones, there's a couple manufacturers that make these now. One of them is an all-in-one box. I think Array Solutions is one of them, and it basically is in fact, I've got one at my house. It's a 6-band bandpass filter that's only good for 200 watts. Now, you can use an amplifier with it, but you would have to use it between your radio and your amp. And it does full band tracking, where if you hook a control cable up to your radio, it takes all different type of radios. It'll work with about anything that's modern. It'll band track automatically with it, so you can have your band pass filter on there. They also have W3 NQN filters that are available now too. They're single band filters, but they also make a matrix that you can put them into and make them. So in other words, if you bought one for each band that you want to use, so they're all low power ones. Those are the ones that. I've used them, and they actually are effective. Obviously, I've used the big ones too. So, you're going to be in a high power. You want to look at the big ones, but the smaller ones are effective. The other thing you can do, and don't count this out, is coaxial stubs. I actually use both. I have coaxial stubs outside, right behind my shack, and I also use the bandpass filters, the small ones, the low power ones in between my radio and my amplifiers. Those work quite well. I have very little band interaction with using both of those.
All right, we've got another question for you. We're going to kind of switch gears here because we've been talking to HF all night. But Carl KD9HQT says, would a 2 meter, 70 centimeter, 23 centimeter Antennas horizontally polarized and above be ideal for sideband and CW, since you can do that on those bands, and those modes aren't used much since FM is more popular. And
I couldn't really comment very well on how well or what the things you need to look at mostly for VHF contests.
Okay. And then Don, KB2YSI, wants to know if you've ever worked a multi-op station where they passed the multi. And if so, how do you communicate the pass off?
We have. It's done differently at every station. So it
whatever
really
works. That's the answer.
That's right.
Whatever works.
It does. We've got some operators that have done different type of things. So this is why it's really good to operate with different contests. I listened to your show last week where Craig K9CT was on there, and Craig is such a joy to listen to. He's a wealth of information. And I'll say kind of the same things that he's done. And I noticed him say this. He said that if you can ever get, around other contesters, it's really good to do that. Participate, even if you're just a bystander and just want to watch. It's amazing how much you're going to watch by doing this. And just like this question here about learning to do this, because different operators will actually do this in different ways. They'll tell the DX station to actually physically go to this station, or hey, we're sitting on 14185 running right now. Call us there. And it works. We've actually done this in RIDI contests. In RIDI contests, what we've done is we'll have a macro on our keyboard, and we'll push that macro, and it actually will spot ourselves to that station, not spot like a DX spot, but it'll actually report automatically where that other station is in the key command, so that prints it out on his screen, so that he knows our station is transmitting on that other frequency at that time. And that's very effective. It's very fast. Obviously, if you're in sideband or CW, it's a lot more difficult, but that's how we've been doing it.
All right, very good. Well, if you have a question, we're about to finish up here. So if you have one, give us a call right now. It's 812-638-4261, or we'll check Twitter once again. It's at Ham Talk Live, and we'll get things finished up here tonight. I know one other thing that you had on your list here that we didn't get too far into was preparation.
Yep. And that's actually a very big subject. And I've done this before where I've been in a hurry. In fact, one contest, I got off the plane. I'm rushing home, and I got home 20 minutes after the contest start, and nothing is turned on. I got to boot up all my computers, got to turn on the radios. I got, I'm way late for the contest. I didn't test anything. I really bombed that contest. So it's like anything else in life or sports. The guy who comes in and prepares the best, the most, has the best chance of winning. So I can't stress on how important it is. Me personally, I host a lot of multi-contests. I've got a core group of guys that comes to my place. And so the entire week before these guys arrive, I am preparing for the contest. I know that sounds maybe a little obsessive. And ask my wife, it probably is. But we plan everything. I mean, the meals, the sleeping arrangements, the operating schedules, all the way down to checking SWR on every antenna, making sure that the antenna switches, making sure the amplifier is tuned up properly on each band, making sure that nothing's out of place, the rotors turn, the radio, and everything is in sync and in harmony. We update all of our software. Get the latest updates. Like with M1MM, there's updates nearly every week. There's usually sometimes more than one a week. We put the latest country file in there. If you've got a history file from previous contests, we want to put those in there so that, when the calls come in, maybe that's one you've worked before in a prior contest, so your software would remember his credentials. It's just these type of things do this. And the other thing I'll mention is to make yourself comfortable. During the contest, I try and place everything on the table in the operating position to where it's comfortable to reach it. If you have to struggle to reach that knob or get to the mouse or whatever you're trying to reach for in the contest, it's very fatiguing. So you want to make sure that everything is comfortable. I got my snacks and my drink right there where I can reach them with one hand and the mouse and the keyboard with the other. So, I try and make it to where I can sit in a seat the longest period of time and be the most comfortable.
Well, all great tips, all wealth of information tonight on getting your own contest station going. And Steve, thanks so much for coming on. And before we go, we want to mention the big station here. You're going to be down at Huntsville and talking about it. Remind us about Be Loud.
Yeah, we've made some improvements, and since I was last on, we were just had finished up phase 1 of our build, and we've gone back and we've done some more. We put some receive antennas out. We didn't get all the things that we wanted done at that particular station, but it's prime time. It's a world-class winning station. We've already proved it. We've had 3 first-place USA finishes from it, and some of the finishes we had were just incredible finishes. So it's working quite well. We're not done with it yet. We still have got a 164 square to put up. We've got all the hardware ready to go. 80 meter 4 square. We've got some other things planned for the station as well. So it's pretty incredible. We've got a lot of guys out there that's asking us, we're coming out with software. This software is basically, it's a web interface that folks around the country or the world can actually log into and use our station as if they were sitting there. And it's a web-based interface that's there's no software to download, there's no hardware. They basically can do it from an iPhone or a Mac or a PC, or they're an Android. It'll work on any platform, and they can operate the station. So it's really cool. We've been testing with it, and we are about 2 weeks from launch, and so we're quite excited about it. And since then, we've added some other stations that want to be a part of what we're doing. So we're still actually looking for other stations that we can marry in and be a part of the network to take part in this. It's really cool. So we feel we're actually changing the hobby by all of this.
Very good. Well, you've got an incredible setup out there, and so we wanted to remind everybody about it. And it's beloud.us to find out more about that. And if you're down in Huntsville, stop by and give Steve a yell and talk to him. And Fred will be down there too, right? He's on his way.
That's right. We got a full booth, and we got some signs, and Fred will be there handing out some cards and talking to some folks that we got a lot of folks we know that are interested in coming to talk to us. So it's quite exciting.
All right. Well, we look forward to it, and we want to thank you and thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and thanks so much. And I'm sure we'll do it again soon. Thanks, Neil. It's a lot of fun coming back. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. I'd like to thank my guest, Steve Narducci, W9SN from beloud.us, and everybody out there in cyberspace for typing in tonight and listening, and invite you back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And for a list of all of our upcoming guests, visit hamtalklive.com. And if you like Ham Talk Live, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. It helps others find us faster. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375. See you this weekend if you're in Huntsville, and may the good DX be yours.